What's going on, everyone? I'm Richie Bon. I'm the coach of the Colorado Cramorant in this season of the Calyrex Game Corners Draft League in Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. In this video, I'm going to be doing a review of my team, some insight into why I picked them, and maybe even some strats as they start to come up. Let's get started. So the very first pick I made was Latios. Latios was something that I had on my mind since Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl came out. I didn't really know to what extent the competitive scene would be for these games, but I knew that no matter what, I wanted to be using Latios. It's pretty fast. 110 is a great speed tier in a generally slower format compared to Sword and Shield. There's a lot of damage. The combination of Dragon and Psychic stabs hit everything pretty hard. If it can't hit it super effective, it can at least hit it neutrally. I think this is a great looking Mon. It has a ton of really cool support options. It has Tailwind. It has all sorts of setup moves. I think it's just a really cool, flexible choice for this format. And it was my first pick as the 11th pick of the draft. Or was it 10th? 10th or 11th pick? I don't know. I was one of them. My second pick was Togekiss. So I think a lot of things that people do when they go into draft leagues is they start to hypothesize like cores, elemental cores, type cores, etc. After I picked up Latios, I was like, I think I want a really good fairy type, and I think I want a steel type somewhere in there as well. So my choice for fairy was Togekiss. Being so late in the draft lets me kind of pick two picks back to back, but it also means that I have to wait a long time between my pairs. You know, you can strategize that that's a really good thing, but some people would rather be in the middle and kind of pick really consistently. For me, I'm really happy that I was able to get my picks back to back, and I thought Togekiss was a great defensive foil for Latios. It's arguably the best follow me user in the format. With no Eviolite, stuff like Clefairy is a little bit weaker, or significantly weaker, honestly. Has great bulk. Fairy Stab is something that's really hard to come by in this format. It's reasonably fast. It gets some really awesome support options besides follow me. It gets Wish, it gets Roost, it gets Life Dew, it gets all sorts of things that could just be really handy in this format. I mean, we've all dealt with Togekiss. Togekiss is kind of a monster. Ever since I got that fairy typing, it's a little unstoppable. All of its abilities, I'm cutting some off a little bit right now, but it has Serene Grace, which will be super helpful for getting like air slash flinches all the time, or maybe if I'm trying to even burn something with Flamethrower, I don't know. And then Super Luck, which just makes you crit more often, which is always good. Hustle is there. I don't really see myself using Hustle necessarily, but it's an option. If maybe there's like a strat 1 week where I do like physical extreme speed Togekiss. We're looking at a base 50 attack stat. I know that's not very good, but like, hey, it could happen. Who knows? My third pick was Magnzone. So as I was saying, I wanted to develop into what they call a fantasy core, which is Dragon, Fairy, and Steel. I liked how Magnzone looked. I thought it was really cool looking. It was at this point where I picked two A tiers, so picking a third A tier would like really dramatically change how my draft would look at the end. And Magnzone was just a great steel type B tier. Super happy with it. Pretty bulky, really strong. Not many special attacking steel types in this format. I feel like the only other good one is like Empoleon, so really happy with Magnzone. All of its abilities are really cool. Magnet Pull, I can trap opposing steel types like Empoleon, for example, who would hate to be in front of Magnzone. Sturdy, super useful. You can just go all out in offense if you want, and you can just, it's like a focus sash, you know? And then Analytic is a super cool ability for something that it's not slow. Like 80 base speed is fine in this format, but I have the option to run it. You know, if it ever gets outsped by anything, it'll be doing a lot more damage. So really happy with this pickup in general, and I think it makes just a great fantasy core with my previous two picks. After Magnzone, I picked up Glade. A lot of other teams in this draft weren't really going for their C tiers at this point, but I thought Glade was super high value, and it was something I wanted to get so that I wouldn't be sniped from me. It has such an insane move pool. It can learn so many different kind of support moves. It gets Quick Guard, Wide Guard, Hypnosis, Ally Switch, just to name a few. You can set up with it with Bulk Up. It has some it lost a couple of damaging moves. It lost Leaf Blade in this game, which is a little unfortunate, but besides that, it has really good coverage. It gets Trick Room is another thing that it does well, and its two abilities, again, I'm cutting them off, but they're Steadfast and Justified. So Steadfast is like okay. If you get flinched, your speed increases. I might find a way to use that 1 week, we'll see, but most of the time I feel like I'm going to be running Justified. It's just a nice option to have. It discourages Snarl, you know, because Latios is going to hate being snarled. If Glade's on the field, it takes that Snarl really well. It gets an attack boost. It's really good. It's incredibly specially bulky. It's got really good attack, and then its other stats are okay. It's got the same speed as Magnzone. Its HP isn't very high, but if I can tell what my opponent is going to bring, if I can predict that accurately, I can invest in the proper defense and just be a really bulky, really threatening mon. I'm really stoked that I have Glade. It's a really awesome support piece and even like an offensive piece. for a lot of the time. So great physical attacker. Next up, I picked up Houndoom. Again, I was just kind of like filling out cores here. I knew fire types would be really hard to come by, and Houndoom seemed like one of the better ones in the C tier. It's pretty strong. It's decently fast. It would be nice if it was a little bit faster, but 95, we can work with that, especially when we can predict how fast our opponent's teams are going to be. We don't have to be fully invested in speed. You know, there's some ways we can go modest. We'll be able to work stuff out. 90 attack isn't terrible. If there's a situation where we want to do a physical set, I mean, it gets access to Sucker Punch. It's not a bad choice at all. I think Houndoom is really, really cool, and it's just a mon that I like. I just think it's neat. So it doesn't really do much outside of Dark and Fire type stab, but it's got some options. It learns Snarl, as I was saying before with Glade. That's a really useful tool to weakening the opponent down. It gets phasing moves like Roar, or that's probably the only phasing move it gets, but it's just a good pick. I'm happy with it. Up next is Rideon. I wanted Rhyperior, I'm not gonna lie, and then the Philadelphia Phalanx managed to grab Rhyperior. I had that extra B, as you saw that I had Magnzone, I picked 2 C tiers. I was like, I can wait on Rhyperior, no one's gonna take it. It was taken, but I think Rideon is a perfectly fine follow-up. It lets me get a different B tier that is of high value, and Rideon is almost as good as Rhyperior. Its attack is very high. It has some of the strongest Earthquakes in the game, second strongest Earthquake, I would say, behind Rhyperior, and then it's tied with Mamoswine. So I'm pretty happy with that. With Latios and Togekiss, I have 2 Pokemon that are immune to Earthquake already, so just having something that can just spam that move is great. Its defense is excellent. We're not going to bother talking about special attack, and then its special defense and speed are quite low. Special defense is a problem, especially because this format doesn't have Eviolite or Assault Vest. If this format had Eviolite, this would be an excellent pickup, and I still think it's great, but I think its special defense is definitely going to be a major weakness for it. And then its speed is low, which isn't really a problem, because now that we've picked up Glade, I've opened up a Trick Room mode, so having that low speed is actually kind of fine. It gets Lightning Rod, Rockhead, and Reckless. I did some research and I found out that the only recoil move it gets in this game is Takedown. And so that's the only move that applies to Rockhead or Reckless. So like, maybe I take Reckless one week if I think Takedown's a good idea, but most weeks I'm going to be taking Lightning Rod for sure. And with Togekiss on the team and some other potential future Pokemon that are weak to Electric, I think Lightning Rod it's a fine ability. It's perfectly good. I really picked up Rideon for some strong Earthquakes and Rock Slides, and that is exactly what Rideon is going to do in this season. Up next, we have Swellow. Swellow is a really, really cool pick. So at this point, I've kind of revealed my purchasing strategy. If you want to see more information about how the draft went down and like how many points coaches could spend, there will be a link to the full draft league announcement and analysis that I conducted with myself and Gentleman Garby, so you can get some insight onto how this draft went down. But just as far as my team goes, I opted to pick up an extra A tier and then 3 extra C tiers. Not many teams decided to take that purchase path, and by the time I picked Swellow, I revealed that. Swellow is really neat. It's very fast. It's on the higher end of the speed tiers that are available in the draft. 125 is awesome. If we don't have to go that fast, we can take that speed down and put it in attack or put it in bulk. You know, it's great. It hits very hard with Guts. If you can just stick a Flame Orb or a Toxic Orb on it, and it's doing a lot of damage, and it's immune to status conditions, so that's awesome. And then Scrappy is another great ability too. It was actually buffed in 8th gen where it makes you immune to the effects of Intimidate. So overall, this thing's just going to be doing a lot of damage. I know 85 attack doesn't look very high, but with, you know, being immune to Intimidate with Scrappy or having Guts active, it's going to be doing a lot of damage with stuff like Brave Bird and Giga Impact. And there's no return in this game, which is unfortunate, and it doesn't get access to Boom Burst, which means we can't run a Boom Burst set, but I don't think we're going to anyways based on the rest of our lineup. I'm stoked with this pick. I think it's a really cool bird. So we finally loop back around and pick up our B tier. We settled on Blastoise. I was thinking about Melodic for a while, and then Melodic got picked up, but I think that kind of shooed me into thinking that Blastoise is actually kind of a better pick for us. It's got great defenses, it does reasonable damage, and it's at a really comfy speed tier. Its stats all around are just good. Torrent and Rain Dish. I'll probably bring Rain Dish into Rain teams. I know there's at least 1 or 2 Rain teams that we'll be seeing in this season, so we'll bring Rain Dish for that. Torrent is probably what I'm going to be bringing most of the time. It's just this classic starter ability, nothing wrong with that. Blastoise is cool. It does good damage. We get access to stuff like Yawn and Fake Out. I think that'd be really handy. There's totally going to be a week at some point where we take Shell Smash, Water Spout. I think that's awesome. Its middling speed is really nice, considering the fact that we can set it up with like Shell Smash or like just make it speedy, or in a situation where we can get Trick Room with Glade, we can have a slow one. You know, I think it's just a really flexible kind of supportive pick that still does decent damage, and Water is just a great type to have. At this point, we've made a complete fantasy core, and it seems like we're on our way to making a elemental core. I wonder who our grass type is going to be at this point. Let's see. It's Meganium. Spoiler. So with our purchase strategy, we were only going to get one D tier, and I was looking at the draft and I was thinking, and just in the format in general, I didn't really need grass type damage. Like dealing damage was like not a big deal with this lineup. Like there's stuff like Gastrodon and other water types where like any grass type for the most part should do the job. So what I wanted was something that was bulky. I wanted a bulky grass. I thought Meganium was an awesome choice. It's got serviceable attacks if I want to be offensive, although for the most part I'm going to be investing in its tankiness, and it gets such good support options, right? It gets Leech Seed, Substitute. I can do like one of those sets. It gets Reflect and Light Screen. Stick a Let Clay on that. Just be bulky forever. I'm just really satisfied with this pick. Again, another base 80 mon, so a lot of my speed tiers are hovering around that point, which I'm happy with because I can support that with Tailwind, or I can support that with Trick Room, or I can just be bulky and just be in that mid-lane speed and just have a fun time in matchup. So I was really pleased with this Meganium pickup. Our final pick, our 10th pick, was Toxicroak. I think Toxicroak's really cool. I was looking for some more support. After looking at the lineup that we had so far, I decided that I wanted like some more fake out. I wanted something that could switch into certain attacks, and I just, I think Toxicroak's just a cool mon. Having the additional fighting type isn't bad at all, because to be honest, I'm a little scared of the Windy City Whimsy's Tyranitar. I think in general that mon has a really good matchup into our team, but with another fighting type, I feel a lot more confident. Its attack stat is great. It gets Nasty Plot. I can even run a special set. It's not really bulky at all, but it doesn't really need to be, right? The dry skin ability is super nice. It just gives a water immunity and recovery in rain, which is really cool. Anticipation's interesting. I think in a draft league format, I think anticipation could actually be kind of used. Because if you're trying to see if your opponent brought a certain tech to beat your team, or to beat Toxicroak specifically, anticipation could reveal that they have a super effective move. So I think that's kind of interesting. I might end up taking that. I think far and away the best ability here is Poison Touch. It adds a 30% poison chance to all contact moves, which is crazy. So if you use that with Poison Jab, you're looking at a 51% poison chance, which is like, I'm not seeking out to poison stuff necessarily, but just like that extra chip damage and that extra status condition could just be so clutch sometimes. I'm really pleased with this, and with Toxicroak, that rounds out the whole draft. I think overall, it went really well. I didn't get sniped that much. There were a couple picks that I was looking at that ended up getting taken, but I wasn't really surprised by it necessarily. I really just wanted my first four. I wanted Latios, Togekiss, Magnzone, and Glade, and then from there I thought I could freestyle, and that's what I did, and I'm really pleased with how it turned out. If you are enjoying this kind of draft league content, please let me know in the comments, leave a like if you enjoy it, and I'll leave a link to the official Calyrex Game Corner Draft League channel, where you can find where we'll be posting all the weekly matches and playlists. So if that sounds like something that's interesting to you, please follow that link, subscribe for more content, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.